dear friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Today I'm going to be wrapping up the month of September. I had a slow month in September because I went on a 10-day trip to Italy. I loved that trip and I just decided during that trip to take it easy. I only read one book during that trip. So I thought that I'm not going to be able to read as much as usual, and I decided to not do the 2 wrap-ups that I usually do within the month. I only read about 12 books, which is still quite good. I'm really happy with the books that I read because I did have a lot of books that I really enjoyed. And then I also read a couple of very atmospheric books to get me into the mood for fall. So I'm going to be talking about all of these books in this wrap up. It's 12 books like I mentioned, and some of them I actually already discussed. At least I discussed what they're about in my fall recommendations video, so fall reads video that I'm going to link up in the cards. If you haven't checked it out yet, you can go ahead and check it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and dive into the books because for some of the books I'm going to have a lot of thoughts. I'm just going to be gushing because it's books that I really love. So the first book that I managed to finish in the month of September is a very atmospheric read for fall. It's called Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. So we've got our heroine who thinks that she has struck gold when she buys this house for a very good deal, so for a very little money. But then it turns out that the house is haunted. It's a house in this small town where everyone knows that this house is haunted, only she doesn't know it. So she slowly but surely finds out that something is very wrong because she's hearing these noises. Things happen within the house that are really that don't make any sense. So she goes to this diner where she encounters our hero. He is the owner of the diner. He is someone who very much is aware of what is going on in her house. Everyone is very curious about the history of that house. And essentially we've got a lot of small town shenanigans within this book. We've got some spooky vibes. We've got a very good romance going on between the heroine and the hero, who is the owner of this diner. The hero actually has these phone kind of text conversations with a ghost himself. So it's something that is, so there's a lot of paranormal activity within this book that is quite nice, and it just fits the spooky season really well. I do have to say that maybe the kind of mystery surrounding what is going on with the house kind of overshadows the romance a little bit because we get to see more of that than the romance itself. But it was still quite a cute book, something that I really enjoyed. I think I would definitely recommend it as a fall read, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. So I promise you that the next 3 books that I read, it's kind of coincidental that all 3 of them have purple covers. The first one being Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is a book that I've wanted to pick up for quite some time because I've heard many people say that they love this series by Lauren Asher more than her other billionaire series. And I just wanted to try it out to see if it's going to be for me as well, because I did have the audiobook through Storytel for this one. Love Redesigned is another small town romance, but it does feature billionaires within this small town, which is very interesting. Typically small towns do not have that vibe going on, but with this one we have it. We've got our hero who is this mogul when it comes to real estate. He also actually is an architect, but he doesn't really draw anymore. He doesn't practice architecture anymore. He doesn't design anything anymore because of certain things that have happened in his past. The heroine is a designer herself, and actually I think they graduated from the same place or the same university. And the thing that happened during university is that he was in love with her, but she started dating his best friend. So he actually never stood a chance. So we've got a pining hero, someone who has always had a thing for the heroine, but she was always someone who is unattainable for him because she used to date someone that he knows. And at a certain point within the book, the heroine was engaged to this guy, so to his friend, but the fiance broke it off with her. So she is very kind of hurt and jaded by what happened. I do have to say that there is a trigger warning within this book that deals with infertility, and then the hero, for the first time in many years, gets a chance to pursue the heroine. So I really did enjoy the romance within the book, and I really did enjoy the small town vibes and the found family within this book. There's a lot of characters that are being introduced where we know that some of them will get their own books in the future, and I really love the setup for that. But then again, I have to say that this book felt quite long. I just looked it up and it says that it's 530 pages, and I don't think that it's warranted for it to be that long. It could have been slightly shorter so that it doesn't feel that long, and it would have been still as engaging. At least this is my feeling for it. So I did give this one 4 stars. I did enjoy it, and I'm going to continue on with the series, but do bear in mind that it's a bit too long. Next up, I read one of my favorites of the year. It's no surprise to anyone that I absolutely love List Down 40. I have loved all of the Windy City books, and this one, this baby here, is no surprise. Play Along is the latest book within her Windy City series, and it focuses on one of the baseball players from book 3. It's the brother of the hero from book 3. The name of the hero here is Isaiah, and his love interest is Kennedy. Kennedy is essentially a doctor, but when she started working for the baseball team, the person who hired her basically didn't want to hire her when they found out that she's a woman. So they offered her a lower position. So essentially she does not work as a medical doctor within the baseball team. She works like a physical therapist. And Isaiah, already from the start of the book, found out that this is going on, but she begged him not to tell anyone. She wanted to make a name for herself and prove that she is a valued asset to the team as a medical kind of face within the team. And there's just so much going on within this book that I absolutely love. So within this book, we've got the accidentally married in Vegas situation. We've got a pining hero because he fell in love with her from the first moment that he laid eyes on her. And we've got a reluctant heroine. She has had some issues in the past with relationships that she's had in the past. She is very much also triggered by the situation that she's in professionally. And she also feels like she just wants to first focus on herself and not really be defined by a relationship with someone who is in the spotlight. So there's a lot of things that are going on that basically don't work in their favor when it comes to their relationship. But Isaiah is the kind of hero that every woman wants and needs to have in her life. He is patient, he's understanding, he is supportive, he is comforting, he does every single thing right to make the heroine feel like she can be herself, and that he is going to be there for her, and that she can make it but still need support by other people and ask for that support, ask for help. And he just does everything right in this book. And I'm like, I didn't think that anyone would top Kai and Ryan Shea for me, but Isaiah gives them a run for their money. I'm telling you, this book is so freaking good. I loved every single second of it. I didn't want this book to end. This is the only book that I managed to finish when I was in Italy. I was savoring it. I was savoring every single word on every single page. I really love this book. And I cannot wait for book 5, which is going to be Rio's book. And you all know that everyone has been waiting for Rio's book, so I cannot wait. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This book is the 3rd book within her Maple Hill series. The first one was the very much hyped Icebreaker, which I loved. The second one was Wildfire, which I didn't love. And then the 3rd one is the book that focuses on a character that everyone has been loving from book 1, and that is Henry. He's part of the hockey team, and he's going to get his happily ever after with our heroine Haley, I think her name is pronounced. She is very much the bookworm, the academic kind of overachiever, while he is very much the jock. So he is someone who is very good at all kinds of sports. So we do have the opposites attract situation here. And the thing is that while he's very good at sports, he does have some issues with his academic career. So his coach asks him to kind of do something about it. So he enlists Haley's help with his classes, and then she asks him for help in return when it comes to her dating life, because she used to be in a relationship with her best friend who very much gave her a lot of complexes, a lot of self-esteem issues, and she's trying to overcome those self-esteem issues. So the two of them are so well fitted together, even though they're quite opposites. They just complement each other so well. He is the kind of person who can be your biggest cheerleader, but at the same time can give you everything straight. So he is the kind of person who is not going to spare you any kind of criticism or any kind of feedback to make you put up a mirror in front of yourself and see yourself as other people see you, so that you know what you need to work for or what you need to work towards. Because it's very difficult when you are the kind of person who values other people's opinion to actually distinguish between what people are saying and actually what is the case. So objectively viewing yourself from a third party side. And Henry is exactly that mirror for Haley. So I think the two of them are just so well fitted. The romance between the two characters is just so organic, and I just felt like the way that they were falling in love with each other is first building up a relationship in terms of a friendship, and then growing into the physical attraction, and then into love. And I was just moving along with them in the same pace as they were falling in love, and that just felt organic to me. So I really love this book, and I gave this one 5 stars as well. The next book is quite fun. It's Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This is a dark stalker romance, and it has some unhinged scenes within this book. We've got our heroine who is into masked men, and she goes on TikTok, I believe, and she finds this account of this guy who is performing these very sensual videos, and he's masked. So she very much is very attracted to him, and she comments on his videos. He kind of singles her out, and he starts to make content that is targeted towards her. She starts to notice that, and she also starts to notice that he is filming those videos from her apartment. So essentially she knows that he is stalking her, and from that point on there's a lot of unhinged things that happen. There's a lot of spicy things that happen, and there's a lot of fun banter between the characters, and it's just a really fun and slightly unhinged and dark and funny and spicy read. I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4 stars. So now we're moving on to something completely different, more towards the cozy fall vibes kind of book, and that is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. This book is quite hyped at the moment because it gives all the fall vibes, and I completely understand why everyone is loving this book, because it does give all the fall vibes. And while it's cutesy, it's also spicy at the same time. We've got a grumpy sunshine dynamic within this book, and we've got very much a character that is similar to Luke from Gilmore Girls, so someone who is very kind of grumpy and reluctant, while the heroine is kind of more quirky and outgoing. She owns this cafe in the small town. She, I think, wanted to leave behind her like very boring corporate job somewhere in a city and then move to the small town to start over, and she does that in this small town, where we've got the hero who is a farmer who very much does not want to be a part of this new cafe setup, but at the same time he gets roped into helping the heroine with certain things. And yeah, I did appreciate a lot of things within this book, mainly that it does give amazing cozy fall vibes and that it is spicy. So it's not just this cutesy romance, but at the same time, maybe I think it's a tad overhyped at the moment, which creates for certain expectations. I thought that I was really going to love this book. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I gave it 3.5 stars. So I was in the mood for a shorter audiobook during a trip that I did a couple of days ago, and it's by Amy Award. It's called The Cock Down the Block. It's a series of books that are all quite short and spicy and cute, and I decided to pick up this first book within the series that features a hero who is absolutely obsessed with the heroine, and we've got plus size representation for all of our heroines within this series, so that's why it was also very compelling for me. The book centers on a hero who is absolutely gone for the heroine. They are best friends since childhood, and he has had her thing for her for forever, but he thinks he doesn't stand a chance with her because of something that happened during their teenage years. And he's quite a popular football player, so he's in the NFL, I think. So he has this kind of popularity about him. And she is dealing with a situation where she's going to have her high school reunion, and she was bullied in high school, so she wants to kind of make it a point to her bullies that she's doing really well and that she's really happy with who she is and the fact that she's looking the way that she's looking. And she decides to ask her best friend, so the hero, to fake date her so that she can show that she's doing quite well during her high school reunion. So there is a fake dating situation, a pining hero, like best friends to lovers, and a plus size heroine. So while I did enjoy this book, I gave it 3.5 stars as well. I don't think that in the long run it's going to be very memorable for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to be continuing on with the series, but it was a good time for the point of time when I picked it up. Next up, I picked up a book off of Tori's recommendation, Tori from Novel Life. She had mentioned that she has read this book and that it's quite atmospheric and that it's quite cute. The book is by Mimi Grace and it's called What a Match. This book centers on a heroine who very much wants to find a good match for herself, but she doesn't want to risk it by going on these dates or getting into a relationship with someone that she's incompatible with. So she decides to hire this company who is supposedly going to find her perfect match. So they're sending out these surveys and they're trying to get to know her and to select a person for her who is going to be someone who is very compatible to her. At the same time, what happens is she has a brother, and her brother is like, I really need your help. My best friend, he has these apartment problems, so he's getting evicted for a certain amount of time until there is a renovation going on in this apartment building. So can you please let him sleep on your couch for a couple of weeks until that is done? And she's kind of hesitant about it because she's always felt like her brother's best friend is someone who is very distant and is not very kind of maybe friendly to her, but she doesn't want to help him out, so she agrees. And the situation is obvious that the guy's actually really liking her and he has always had a thing for her, but at the same time, because she is his best friend's sister, he doesn't want to make a move. So essentially we've got the brother's best friend situation going on and the forced proximity because they're in her apartment this whole time, and at the same time he is getting to see how she's going on all these dates, so he's getting quite jealous and a bit obsessive over her as well. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 3.5 stars as well. It's quite atmospheric because it is written within the fall period and the cover is also very fall inspired, so you'll definitely enjoy it if you pick it up at this time of year. The next book that I read, I enjoyed so much. It's a new release by Jocelyn Soto. It's part of a series. It's the second book within the Flor de Muertos series. It's called Violent Attraction. And let me tell you, the first book I really enjoyed. That one is kind of like a mafia cartel kind of book. And this one is also a cartel situation, mafia related kind of book. The book centers on like the cartel boss's daughter who is very much in love with one of the soldiers within the cartel, and he's someone who has grown up with her and her brother, so he's the brother's best friend again. And the thing is that she very much wants to be with him and wants to marry him, but her father decides that she's going to be married off so that he can make connections with another family within the cartel. So she really doesn't get a say, and at the same time, the hero is absolutely obsessed with the heroine and does not want her to get married to this guy. So he wants to prevent that wedding and he wants to do everything in his power to stop all of this horrible kind of cartel business that is impacting all of their lives. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's kind of action-packed. The romance within this book is great, and I just flew through this book. I think I read it within a day, and I would definitely recommend it. It's 4 stars for me. The next book that I read is also very atmospheric for fall. It's called Hexed and Hitched, and this book I didn't love. So I don't think I'm going to talk about it too much because it just doesn't make sense for me to hate on this book. I think I give it about 2 stars on Goodreads because the book centers on a guy who is kind of this perpetual playboy. He dates this witch who is very much obsessed with him, and when he breaks it off with her, she curses him. And instead of enlisting the help of his best friend, who is actually in love with him and can actually help him out, he goes about calling all of his ex-girlfriends for help. And I'm like, is this a romance between himself and one of those ex-girlfriends, or between himself and his best friend? Because we are getting the sense that it should be the best friend, right? But at the same time, there is more focus on him spending time like being busy with himself and his own curse and the ex-girlfriends than actually sensing that he has feelings or that he is supposed to be with the heroine. So I just did not love the romance within this book, and I gave it 2 stars. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a very interesting book. I really enjoyed it, and it's a very interesting one because it does have great representation within it. The book is called You Had Me at Happy Hour, and it's written by Timothy Jankowski. And it centers on 2 heroes who both of them work in a bar. The first hero, he is kind of like the adopted son of the couple who owns the bar. And then the second guy is someone who used to live in New York. He had this glamorous life, and he is someone who is very popular when it comes to mixing drinks and making cocktails, while the other hero is a wine connoisseur. I was trying to think of the word. He's a sommelier, so someone who is an expert in wines. So the 2 of them don't hit it off in the best way when one of the heroes, Greg, starts to work at this bar. But at the same time, there is an immediate attraction between the 2 of them. And the interesting representation within this book is that the first hero, I think his name was Julian. I don't remember their names very well, but I think it's Julian and Greg. So Julian has OCD, while Greg has erectile dysfunction. So the 2 of them are very mindful of each other's kind of ways of life and what they're dealing with, and they're very careful with each other, and they're very respectful towards each other. At the same time, we do sense that the 2 of them have their own issues that they need to work through. So Greg is someone who used to live in a big city, is now in a smaller town, and kind of is wondering whether that's the best step for him to make. At the same time, we've got Julian, who is someone who is a sommelier, and he really wants to work in that field of work, and he is focused on his career and does not want to get distracted by a relationship. What can you do when you fall in love, right? So the 2 of them really have no chance against fighting their feelings because they really are falling in love with one another. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The last book that I read in the month of September is called Truly, Madly, Deeply by L.J. Shen. Now, let me tell you, I've not read an L.J. Shen book in a very long time because the last 3 books that I read by this author, I really did not enjoy. So I kind of took a break from L.J. Shen's books. But then I read a synopsis, or the synopsis for this book, and I was like, I think I'm going to enjoy it because it does feature a chef. And I love foodie romances, so I wanted to try this one out to see if I'm going to enjoy it, and I really did. I did have, or at least I did sense some of the things that I typically don't enjoy within L.J. Shen books within this one as well, but not to the highest extent, so I really didn't pay it any mind in this book. The book centers on our hero, who is this professional chef, like a Michelin star chef, who very much has been in love with the heroine since he was a teenager, and when they were teenagers they had this one-night stand. But the heroine is essentially the hero's sister's best friend, and the sister did not react very well when she found out that the 2 of them hooked up. So essentially they did not stand a chance to start a relationship in the first place when they were teenagers, so they immediately broke it off. And then a couple of years later, the heroine goes back to their small town because her father is sick. The hero, in the meantime, has become this very big name chef who essentially has opened up a Michelin star restaurant in this small town, but he has his reasons for that, and he has his reasons for actually wanting to leave the small town. So the 2 of them kind of get back into bantering with each other, get back into reminiscing about what happened, and at the same time the hero is very much aware of the fact that if he goes down the path of trying to start a relationship with her again, that if she breaks his heart again, that it's going to be game over for him. So he's very reluctant in one sense, but at the same time he really cannot fight his feelings because he's absolutely obsessed with her. The heroine has had certain things, very traumatic things happen to her when she was young, so she is very reluctant as well. So there's a lot of interesting issues within this book that are dealt with in a very kind of interesting and sometimes unhinged ways. And I do have to say that I gave this book 4 stars because of these certain unhinged parts that are kind of incredible, but at the same time also there's a spicy scene that was not to my liking, so that's why I gave it 4 stars. But I did have a lot of fun with it, and I actually would recommend it because it's a really good time. I really enjoyed this book, so yeah, you can try it out. I feel like this is a very hectic wrap up, at least for me, because I've been filming this for a very long time because my thoughts are not working today. My brain is just switched off and I'm not dealing very well with how I am trying to express myself. At the same time, yeah, I just needed to wrap up the month of September because otherwise I'm just going to forget what all these books were about. Not the ones that I really loved. The ones that I really loved are going to be engraved in my brain for a very long time. Specifically, Play Along by Listam 40 is going to be, like I mentioned, the top read of the year for me. And yeah, please let me know what you've been reading in the month of September. What were your favorites of the month? And also let me know if you've read any of the books that I did and whether you enjoyed them. And please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and bye-bye.